What if I told you that everything you've been taught about student fatigue is wrong? That the glazed eyes, the fidgeting, the mental checkout you see 15 minutes into independent reading, none of it is real exhaustion. Today's bonus episode is about to blow your mind. I'm still processing my conversation, Season 5, Episode 12, The Secret Connections Between Your Body and Brain with Gravity Goldberg. If you've not listened to that episode yet, pause this bonus, go back, it's right below this episode, and then come back to this content. For this bonus episode, I wanted to share my 3 main takeaways from that conversation with Gravity. You'll discover why that digital timer on your board is sabotaging student stamina, how a simple arm position can change homework motivation, and why the best thing you can do for test anxiety might be having students do wall push-ups. These 3 strategies can transform your classroom on Monday. No special materials needed, no complicated training required, just a complete flip in how you think about bodies and brains. This is Solutions Teaching Strategies, the podcast that extends education beyond the classroom. A show that isn't just theory, but practical, try-it-tomorrow approaches for educators and caregivers to ensure every student finds their spark and receives the support they need to thrive. You know those moments when research completely flips your teaching assumptions upside down? Well, that's exactly what happened when Gravity shared about the 2/3 rule with me. Picture this. You're conferring with your students during independent reading, about 15 minutes into a 20-minute session. You see it, the fidgeting, the glazed eyes, the mental checkout. You think they're exhausted, right? Wrong. They're not tired. They just expect to be tired because they know they're approaching the end. This discovery has profound implications for how we structure learning in our classrooms. Let me start with a confession. For years, I proudly displayed digital timers in my classrooms. I thought I was building stamina, but it turns out I could have been sabotaging it. Here's what Gravity's research revealed. When students know they're 2/3 through any task, it's around the 13-minute mark of a 20-minute activity, their bodies and brains start preparing to be tired. It's not actual fatigue, it's anticipated fatigue. Think about your own life. Have you ever been engrossed in a book or project, completely lost track of time, and suddenly realized you've been at it for hours without even feeling tired? That's because you weren't watching the clock. You weren't mentally tracking your progress toward an endpoint. So here's strategy number 1, and I think it's deceptively simple. On Monday, instead of saying, we're going to read for 20 minutes, try saying, we're going to read for a while. Don't display the timer. Don't mention the duration. Just let them read. Now, if you're thinking in your head, I still need to manage my schedule. I get it. Keep a timer for yourself discreetly. But here's the key. Vary the actual duration. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes 22, sometimes 18. When students can't predict the endpoint, they can't prepare to be tired at that magical 2/3 mark. Now let's talk about something that might make more traditional educators uncomfortable: movement as memory. Gravity shared a statistic that was insane to me. When students use movement as part of their learning, they retain 76% more information. 76%! And here is what else I thought fascinating. It's not about constant movement. It's about creating what researchers called embodied memories or memory tags. Gravity shared a story about actors learning lines. They don't just sit and memorize, they learn through blocking, which she defined as the physical movements that accompany their words. Walking across the stage while saying this line or gesture here or turning there, the movement becomes the memory anchor. So here's how you could apply this week. Pick one concept you're teaching. Maybe it's the water cycle or parts of speech or maybe even the quadratic formula. Now, instead of having students take notes or complete a worksheet, Have them create a physical representation. And remember, here's the magic. They only need to do this physical representation once. After that, all they need to do is visualize that movement. The movement becomes the memory. For younger students, this might look like using manipulatives to act out a story problem in math. For older students, it could be using sticky notes to physically move and reorganize ideas for an essay. The key is that the movement must be meaningful, connected to content, not movement for movement's sake. This third strategy is also immediately implementable: intentional gesture. And I want to be clear here, I'm not talking about wild hand waving or theatrical performances. I'm talking about deliberate, repeatable gestures that become a visual language in your classroom. Gravity mentions something really important. When teachers use intentional gestures, it forces us to slow down and to be more deliberate with our language. It captures student attention because they're not just processing auditorially, they're processing visually and kinesthetically too. Start small. Pick 3 to 5 concepts or instructions you use repeatedly and create a simple gesture for each. Maybe pulling your hands apart for expand your thinking, or making a bridge with your hands for connection, or a gentle downward motion for let's slow down and think. Here's what happens. First, you model these gestures while saying the words. Then, gradually you can just use the gesture without the words, and students know exactly what you mean. You're speaking less, conserving your voice, and students are more engaged because they're reading your body language, not just listening to words. But here's the next level. Encourage students to create their own gestures for concepts they're learning. When they create the gesture, they own the learning. Reflecting on Gravity's research, I keep coming back to this idea. We've been treating our students' bodies as obstacles to learning. Bodies that need to sit still, be quiet, not fidget. But we've had it backwards because their bodies are actually the key to deeper learning. Think about your most engaged learners. They're not the ones sitting perfectly still. They're the ones whose faces mirror the emotions in the story they're reading. They're the ones who naturally gesture when explaining their thinking. They're the ones who unconsciously tap out syllables or sketch what they think. These students aren't succeeding despite their movement. They're succeeding because of it. Here's what I hope you remember. This isn't about making learning easier. As Gravity pointed out, creating embodied memories, using manipulatives to show understanding, gesturing to explain thinking, this is sophisticated, rigorous work. It requires deeper processing than simply copying notes or filling in worksheets. I'm not asking you to add movement as entertainment. It's recognizing that movement is thinking, that our bodies and brains aren't separate systems competing for attention, but one integrated learning machine. The question isn't whether we should allow movement in our classrooms. The question really is, can we afford not to? Join me on Monday for my conversation with Eli Harwood. She shares about her book, Raising Securely Attached Kids, and what our children really need when they act out. And until Monday, remember, your students' bodies aren't the distraction from learning. They are the pathway to it. Take care. Solutions Teaching Strategies is created, produced, and edited by me, Olivia Wall. Thank you to my older son, Benjamin, who created the music playing in the background. You can follow and listen to Solutions wherever you get your podcasts, or subscribe to never miss an episode and watch on YouTube. Here's my invitation, and I cannot wait to hear which strategy you choose. Remove the visible timer for one work session. Have students create a physical representation of one concept, or introduce 3 intentional gestures. Try it Monday, watch what happens. Then email me at solutionspodcast@gmail.com. Tell me what you observed. And remember, this isn't fluffy. This isn't the educational trend of the week. This is neuroscience meeting pedagogy in a way that honors how humans actually learn. When Gravity shared about the 76% better retention through movement, We're not talking about making learning fun, though it might be. We're talking about making learning stick. So this weekend, as you plan for next week, ask yourself Gravity's simple but profound question: how might bodies be helpful in this lesson? The answer might just revolutionize your classroom. Tune in every Monday for the best research-backed coaching and teaching strategies that you can apply right away to better the lives of the children in your care. And stay tuned for my bonus episodes every Friday, where I'll reflect and share connections to what I learned from the guests that week. See you then.